Alright, Light, I've got another automotive video for you. I had a technical data issue with the Jeep here that I wanted to make a quick video about in order to provide information to anybody else who runs into this issue so they don't have to spend like 4 hours trying to figure out what actually goes where. And the issue I had is I was missing 2 alternator bolts for my alternator for about 45,000 miles. Well, I was missing 1 bolt and I had the wrong bolt. Let me show you. First things first, this is a 3.7 liter V6 Jeep Liberty 2005. So the issue I was having is I was working here in my engine bay trying to figure out a electrical issue. I was having an intermittent starter problem. I'm pretty sure it was a bad contact. But anyway, so I was in here checking my alternator and my battery to see if my battery was going or my alternator was going, and I was just losing voltage. And when I was looking at my alternator here, I noticed something funny, and you might be able to see that. I was missing a bolt. And when I went over here to this alternator bolt here, it was like this. Loose. It just came out after a half a turn, which, you know, was not a good thing. And as you can see at the bottom of this, it's galled up. It's missing like a thread. However, the rest of the bolt is correct. So that's a bit of an issue, especially since it's been like that for 45,000 miles, and I never noticed. I never had any issues. So props to the Jeep Liberty for having a solid alternator mount where it was able to make do with just 1 over-torqued bolt. And I had a local guy put a short block in this. Like 2 months after I bought this car, I had one of the timing chains on this side skipped a link, and it just pulverized 1/2 of the block, ruined the whole fucking engine, and I had to drop a short block in there like 2 months after I bought the car. So always check your timing chains whenever you get a car. That's very important. But, you know, this is my first car and I had no idea what I was doing. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. The whole point of this video is I'm going to show you what size, head size, shank size, and thread pitch your alternator bolts are supposed to be, because I cannot find the technical data online anywhere. And it took me a while to figure it out, and I just had to pull the alternator and check thread pitches and bracket widths to figure all this stuff out. Let me show you what you're going to need in order to replace alternator bolts in case you're missing one, or you bought a new alternator, you got a short block and you don't have an alternator and you got to find bolts somewhere. I mean, the easy solution is just to go to a junkyard and buy them, but if you don't feel like doing that, or you don't have a Liberty in your junkyard, it's going to be an issue. So anyway, the reason that this bolt is as munged up as it is because this is a 90mm bolt, which is not what's supposed to be on this alternator. So I think this came out of a Wrangler or a Cherokee or something. Alright, so here are the bolts I have in here. As you can see, they're all 3 different sizes. It's a mixed bag. I don't know why they went with this setup. Alright, so this bolt here is for the rear of the alternator bracket. This is a 13mm hex flange head with a 45mm long shank. The shank is 8mm wide. It is a 1.25mm thread pitch. This here is the bolt for the front right part of the alternator bracket. This is a 15mm hex flange with a 50mm shank, and remember, this is the one that's in a blind hole, so this is the one where the length is critical. And the shank length is 50mm, it is 10mm around, and it is a 1.5mm thread pitch. Here is the third bolt for the front left part of the alternator bracket. This is a 13mm hex flange head with a 10mm wide shank. It's 100mm long and has 1.5mm thread pitch. And as you can see, these all have different size heads. These aren't the correct heads. These aren't the correct grade of bolt. These are all going to be replaced. I tried looking this stuff up online and I couldn't find anything, which is kind of weird with a 13-year-old car that is as widespread as this 2005 3.7 liter V6 Jeep Liberty. So hopefully this helps somebody out. I'll have all the stuff down in the description so you can just copy and paste that into Amazon or take it into the hardware store and tell them to get some for you. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how to pull your alternator for the hell of it. First things first, disconnect your battery. I've already got that done. You don't want to electrocute yourself on the alternator. Then you're going to want to pull your rear plug out of your alternator. It's supposed to have a latch there. Mine is broken off, so that's another good sign. Then you pull this cap off, and then it's a 13mm socket to get this bolt off. Sorry, to get the nut off. Just get that the hell out of the way. Then you're going to want to put a 15mm socket on your tensioner and pull off the tension and pull off your belt. And if you're stupid like me, you can take your belt and put it right down here on this engine stud. And I'm just going to show you how to take this one bolt off because it's a standard procedure. It's just a bolt for all of them. So this is a 15, this is a 13, and this is a 13mm. Yep, everything on this Jeep is metric. Thanks, Mercedes. Makes it impossible to find grade A bolts for this thing. You're going to have to order them online. Or I'm just going to go to a junkyard at one point. Let's pull that out. Once you have all three of your bracket bolts off, the alternator just comes out. There. No alternator. And put it back in. Larger bracket on the far side in first. Back side first. Just drop her in. Then line all your bolt holes up. Putting these in, I would recommend putting in the long one first. Just get these things finger tight at first, otherwise you can't adjust this bracket over here to get the other bolts in. Then I like going for the other front 15mm. Once again, you gotta jiggle this bracket to get the thing to. Then put your rear one in. I don't know what the torque spec is on this. I'm just getting them good and tight. Then put your belt back on. Put your plug back in here. Put your cap back on first. Make sure all your contacts are clean while you have these off too. Mine are good. That was a 13. Plug back in. Put your tab in if you have a tab. I don't have a tab, but I'm not replacing that damn wire. Then put your battery back on, which I don't think is in frame. Alright, there you go. Hope this helped.